Hello and welcome to Donington Park and rounds 18, 19 and 20 of the GT Cup. When drivers aren't signed up to the full season here at GT Cup, there are still opportunities for them to make guest entries. Back at Silverstone, we had Jim Geddy, last year's overall champion and GTO champion, joining us. And this weekend, we've got the GTB champion from last year, David Wally. Okay, David, welcome back.
Thank you very much. Good to be back.
We haven't seen you for a little while. What have you been up to?
Well, I had a great season last season and decided to enter the Carrera Cup this year. And unfortunately, in pre-season testing at Silverstone, had a big accident, found myself in hospital, so ended up writing the car off as well. So it's taken me a few months just to get the body back into the fitness that it is and get myself ready. So this is the first time back in the car.
Well, we're very excited to have you here. And why is it that you've chosen to come back to GT Cup?
I think it's a great series. I really enjoyed last year. I love the paddock feeling, love the organisation, I love the chance that it allows me to get back in a little bit under the radar because I'm not in the championship anymore, so it just gives me that opportunity just to come in slightly under the radar, see how I feel and make some decisions afterwards.
And what car are you driving this season?
I'm still in a Porsche, but this year it's a 2015 991, whereas last year I was driving a 2014 997, so not a huge amount of change, but they've moved me up a class from GTB to GTC, which I'm not happy about, but I guess I have to accept it.
Have you had a look at the competition? Who are you most looking forward to racing with?
Well, there are 5 other cars in my class, so 2 Ferraris, 2 McLarens and a Lotus, so I'm hoping for a top 5 finish.
Well, hopefully it will be a top 5 finish, and good luck for later on. Thank you, David.
Brilliant, thank you very much indeed.
Time now for the first race of the meeting, the 50-minute pit stop endurance race. Pole's been taken by one of the new entry McLarens, with Nelson and Carroll just behind in their Ferrari.
Thank you very much, Olivia. So a McLaren Ferrari front row, Richard Chamberlain third position in the Porsche 935, and then the Paul Bailey, Andy Schultz car behind them. David Wally, who we saw at the top of the show, he starts from 12th position ahead of Nigel Hudson. A little bit further back there's Rob Gaffney in the GTA Ginetta G50 starting from 22nd place, and further back Martin Webb in 25th. A packed 31 car field for this 50-minute endurance race at Donington Park, and we are about to get racing at one of the finest tracks in Britain. The cars head towards the start line and the lights are green and it's go, and immediately a big move down to the inside. Richard Chamberlain in the Porsche trying to get alongside our front row occupants down the inside into Redgate Corner. It's the 2 orange cars side by side, and it's Chamberlain who's got the racing line and running wide at the exit turn 1. Mike Benham, and slightly wider Sean Winder off in the gravel trap there, and another car off on the inside. That is David Fairbrother in the Porsche, but the rest of this huge 31 car field plunging down through the daunting Craner curves, some of the most challenging corners on this fantastic Donington Park Grand Prix circuit, and enjoying the best view of the lot of them up at the sharp end of the field is Richard Chamberlain in the Porsche, pursued by Phil Bergen in the Audi. Mike Benham, our pole sitter in the McLaren, has slipped down to 3rd place. He's got a couple of Ferraris behind him, and that's another one, a Sean Winder car, which I'm sure is going to make its way out of the gravel trap, and David Fairbrother determined to remain part of the action. But while he gets going again, we've got still a good battle going on between the leaders. John Dillon down the inside of Mike Benham at the Fogarty chicane, and the Ferrari 458 is up ahead of the McLaren 650S, and it could be another Ferrari making its way through, because that's Darren Nelson trying to make a move down the inside as they reach the Adelaide hairpin. Nelson takes the inside line away from Benham, and it's Benham down to 5th place, having started from pole position, but he's not giving it away too easily. He's back to the outside as they come to the hairpin, and he has indeed retaken that 4th position. So an excellent little battle here developing between Darren Nelson in the Ferrari and Mike Benham in the McLaren, and is Nelson going to be able to tuck up into the slipstream as they come back down to Redgate Corner for the 2nd time in this race? But we've got yellow flags down out at turn 1 because the marshals are still busy recovering the other Ferrari of Sean Winder, so Darren Nelson is just going to have to hold back for the time being and see if he can't find a way around Mike Benham further on around this lap. So lap 2 at Donington Park. We've still got Richard Chamberlain off up in the lead, and the field working their way through the Craner curves. David Fairbrother's gallant attempts to remain in the race continues, although his left rear tyre no longer wants to be part of the action. Or does it? It's making its way back onto the track, and I'm glad it's not my job to pick that tyre up. but back in the middle, and a very, very tight battle for position here. We've got absolutely dozens of cars nose to tail in the thick of the action. I can see Rob Gaffney in there leading in the GTA category, but we've got a problem for the Ferrari of Marcus Hogarth. Appears to be dropping back and passed by a few cars in the middle of the field. There are our race leaders making the way past the errant tyre in the middle of the track. We've still got Richard Chamberlain up at the sharp end of the field, and they're about to make their way past David Fairbrother, who's making his way back to the pits, but I don't think he's going to cause any problem for the race leaders at all. So Chamberlain goes past, and Phil Bergen in the Audi just dropping back a little bit from our race leader, and Mike Benham, having been under quite a lot of pressure in the first part of this race, now seems to have a good hold on that 4th position in the McLaren, racing in this championship for the first time this weekend. What a fantastic and striking looking car the McLaren 650S is, resplendent in its very traditional McLaren orange livery. Kevin Riley in the striking black Lotus Evora leading the GTC group, and he has GTO group driver Andy Houghton behind him in the Aston Martin V8 Vantage, but that Lotus looking very slick and very solid through the very high speed corner curves, heading down towards the old hairpin, which really isn't very much of a hairpin at all. They only really brush the brakes briefly heading into the fast right-hand corner. Here are our race leaders. We're picking up the car in 3rd position. But the leaders up at the sharp end a little bit strung out at the moment as they tackle Coppice Corner. Back at the Craner curves, Rob Gaffney in the number 46 Ginetta. Now, he's run very strongly in this championship so far this year, and he is one of several drivers who's going to have to pick up a bit of extra time at his pit stop, which is designed to level things out a little bit between the drivers who've had a lot of success so far this season and those who've had not quite as much. We just saw Marcus Hogarth heading into the pits there. I'm afraid his race is run, but we will catch up on all the mandatory pit stops later on and who is going to be stationary for the most amount of time, because that will have a major role in shaping the outcome of this race. But our race leaders are back at the hairpin and beginning another lap, and it continues to be Richard Chamberlain in that very striking bright orange Porsche out front, with the legs of the Audi R8 behind him, piloted by Phil Bergen, the United Autosports car, and a pair of Ferraris separated by McLaren behind them. Continuing to give chase, Kevin Riley in the Lotus, who still has the legs of the GTO group machinery he's running with. Very competitive outing so far from Kevin Riley as he tackles the Craner curves, heading down towards the hill, and the cars shift a lot of their weight around. It's an area of the circuit where they rock about from side to side on their suspension, and it really does test a lot of the drivers' precision. You have to keep very much away from the grass verges at the edge of the corner. It can be very, very tricky, very easy to get caught out there. Stephen Frizzell in the Ginetta number 36, he is well up in contention for the win with Rob Gaffney, not least because when Frizzell makes his mandatory pit stop later on, he'll be stationary for about 1 minute and 20 seconds, but Rob Gaffney is going to have to be stationary for about 2 minutes and 50 seconds, so a simple bit of maths tells us that he only has to remain within about 50 seconds of him to have a good chance of contesting for the victory later on in this race. But doing the best job of contesting for victory at the moment is Richard Chamberlain. We've got a bit of a battle shaping up for 2nd place. No, we don't, because that is Sean Winder, who rejoined the track following his problem on the first lap. I momentarily mistook him for John Dillon in the Ferrari. So Winder, the leaders making their way past him. There is Mike Benham and Mate Miner 99 in the barrier. We've got a driver off at the top of the circuit. That's Martin Webb in the BMW M3, and although he's quite close to the edge of the track there, I think we are going to have the safety car in order to make sure that that car can be recovered safely. So the field is neutralised for the time being, but it should only be a quick interruption while we get that car recovered. The field forms up behind the BMW safely, and that will close everybody back up again. So the safety car peels back off into the pits, and we are racing once more at Donington Park in the GT Cup race. We have got Richard Chamberlain continuing to lead, followed by Phil Bergen in the Audi. Behind them, the Ferrari of John Dillon, Mike Benham in the McLaren, and then the second Ferrari of Darren Nelson, and the recovering Sean Winder Ferrari has been passed by a few of the cars back there. as they head back down towards the Craner curves, and Chamberlain is already at the bottom of them, and you can see that lead group of 5 cars quickly able to build up a little bit of a gap over their pursuers, and we've got slightly more of a gap opening out as a few more of these cars work their way through the traffic. And there is David Wally in the number 2 Porsche taking advantage of the opportunity to move up past Tom Webb in the number 69 BMW, and Webb following closely behind the Ferrari. I'm sure he will pull alongside as he draws out in the short straight between McLean's and Coppice and gets up the inside and moves through, and a few of the other cars following him by as well, as we pick up Mike Benham, who started this race from pole position, and now that the safety car has given him the opportunity to close back onto the tail of John Dillon, he's looking quite racy behind that Ferrari. I wonder if he's going to try and make a bid for 3rd position, and they're all very, very close as they return to the Adelaide hairpin, with Darren Nelson also closing right in on the back of the McLaren. So we could very easily see a move between any of the 3 drivers in 3rd, 4th and 5th positions. And sure enough, as they reach the hairpin for the final time, Darren Nelson exploring the inside line against Mike Benham, moving quickly over to the left-hand side, briefly trying to break the toe for the chasing cars, but maintaining single file as they head into Redgate, as we are on our 2nd lap of green flag running following that brief safety car period. So now, are we going to see a move for 4th position as they come out of the Fogarty chicane? Mike Benham not perhaps getting the power down quite as well in the McLaren as he'd like, and that has allowed Darren Nelson to take a look down the inside as they head towards the Adelaide hairpin. Has he got the move completed? Yes, we can see them coming out of the corner, and the Ferrari has just nosed ahead. And now we have the pit stop window has opened at Donington Park, so we'll be back with more in a moment. Welcome back to Donington Park, where the mandatory pit stop action is well underway in the GT Cup race. We've got 3 of our top 5 drivers already on pit road, swapping between their drivers. Now, in addition to having a mandatory pit stop time, each car must spend 1 minute 15 seconds in the pits. Each of the cars are also given a success penalty based on how well they've done earlier on in the championship. So the amount of time they spend in the pits isn't necessarily connected to how well they've done swapping their drivers around. It's all related to their performance earlier on in the championship. So we will do our very best to keep on top of where all the drivers are going to emerge from the pits once they are done, because they will have between 0 and 65 seconds added to their total pit stop time before they all get back out into the pits. And we've already seen heading into the pits our drivers who are in 3rd, 4th and 5th places, and they were John Dillon, Darren Nelson and Mike Benham. And now we've got the first of the drivers heading back out onto the track after their pit stops. There is Nathan Freak. Now, he had a much shorter success penalty than his GTA rival Rob Gaffney, so that's going to put him into a much stronger position. And there goes Aaron Scott, who has taken over the Ferrari 458 from John Dillon. And our race leader, Richard Chamberlain, comes through. Now, Richard Chamberlain not sharing that car with anyone this weekend, but he still has to come in and make his mandatory pit stop, and he has a 20-second success penalty, which is 5.5 seconds longer than Aaron Scott and John Dillon had, and that is why you now see the Aaron Scott Ferrari has moved ahead of Richard Chamberlain and is effectively our leader of this race once all the pit stops shake out. So we've got the last of the cars rejoining the track now. There is Duncan Tappy, who is at the wheel of the McLaren 650S, which he's taken over from his teammate. So having dropped back from their pole position, they are now looking like potential contenders for a podium place in the GTO group. A few more drivers heading out after their last pit stop. We've got one stopping briefly at the pit lane exit. Can't think why the pit lane exit light would be red at the moment, but getting back out onto the track. Pick up some of the drivers in the middle of the pack of this extensive field. That's the Nigel Armstrong, Jamie Dawson Porsche working its way out of the hairpin. They're in to make their compulsory pit stop. They don't have a success penalty, so they will have a minimum 1 minute 15 second pit stop before rejoining the track. So this mandatory pit stop time really does help level out the playing field and make for a lot of close racing up at the sharp end of the GT Cup Championship when we get into the closing stage of the race. And here is one of those battles forming up for position now. Phil Glue, who has taken over the Aston Martin, has got Duncan Tappy filling his mirrors as they contest the GTO positions. And moving up the inside there alongside two of the Ginettas is one of the Ferrari drivers. You can see which one that was pulling out of the final corner. It's Adam Carroll, who's now taken over the number 18 car. And there's one of the new cars in this weekend's race, George Christopher at the wheel of the Ferrari, run by the Audatex group. So Richard Chamberlain, our former race leader, had that longer pit stop because of the higher success penalty. He's now dropped a little bit behind and not up the front position anymore. We're waiting for the last of these few pit stops to complete before we can figure out where absolutely everybody is. But the second and third cars in this battle that you see are actually battling over second and third position. They're behind the number 7 Lotus of Downing, which is not part of their battle, and so Phil Glue is going to be anxious to put a move on him as quickly as possible. Looking further on at one of the other McLarens in the battle this weekend. That's Warren Hughes in the other McLaren 650S, which is racing in the GTC group. Now accelerating out towards the final hairpin. We've got a change of position down the inside. Adam Wilcox in the Audi R8. He's in the GTO group. Goes down the inside of Nathan Freak in the Ginetta. Richard Chamberlain, our former race leader, has dropped back a little bit of a way after that pit stop, and not in contention for the lead at the moment. But John Saunders pressing on in the Ginetta G50. He rounds Redgate corner. You see the enormous rear wing on the back of that G50 and the vast diffuser as well, working to help plant that car very firmly onto the ground. Give it all the extra downforce that they need, especially around the many quick corners around this Donington Park track, one of the more challenging venues that the GT Cup cars race at. Making his way back up following a problem earlier in the race, that's Sean Winder. He's got that Ferrari going quite a bit quicker, lapping a lot faster than he was earlier on, so he's definitely feeling a bit better in that car now. This is the GTA battle between the car number 62 of Saunders ahead of Andrew Bentley, and we've got three cars side by side at Redgate corner down the inside. Those are three cars actually all in different groups, and Charlie Hollings emerging out of the front of them. But Aaron Scott up at the sharp end of the field, the number 13 Ferrari, a problem for him, has picked up a 5-second time penalty for disobeying the track limits at the edge of the circuit, and he's not the only driver to have done so. 4 others have also picked up track limit penalties, but it's very significant for our race leader, because if he's not got a 5-second margin over the car behind him at the end of the race, he is not going to be our race winner. But no news in the meantime for Adam Wilcox, continuing to press on in the Audi. Very tasty battle further on, diving down the inside there in the Audi. That's Phil Bergen, not wanting to lose any time at all as he goes past the number 63 car. That's Harry Whale as they dive through the Fogarty chicane. It all got a little bit tight and tasty there, but Bergen emerges without a problem. Rounding the Melbourne hairpin on the longer Grand Prix loop. This is the extra part of the circuit that was built in order to host the Formula 1 Grand Prix back in 1993, the one time that we've had the World Championship at the Donington Park track, which was won by McLaren. And we look at the McLaren of Duncan Tappy, who has got a good chance of getting home in the podium now, particularly with the news of that penalty for Aaron Scott. He was able to get within 5 seconds of his rival. He will be in a very strong position at the end of this race as Phil Bergen continues to make the big moves in the Audi, really working aggressively on his way through the traffic, not being held up at all there at Redgate corner. There are a lot of quick corners around this Donington Park track. It can be a little bit difficult to make an overtaking move, particularly with these massive wide GT cars. They need to flag up your move nice and early, getting good and deep on the brakes, and Phil Bergen really giving an excellent example of how it's all done. Further behind him we pick up Charlie Hollings. He is in the FF Course Ferrari and effectively the leader of the GTC group, but he's got David Wally, who we heard from at the beginning of the programme, not too far behind him in the Porsche. So he's definitely being kept honest. David Wally having his first weekend in the GT Cup back from injury, having acquired himself a new Porsche after a massive crash in the off-season, and really giving an extremely good account of himself in this first race, well up in the GTC standings. And once again, we've got quite a few drivers queuing up as they head towards the Melbourne Heaven, and a big gaggle of them all mounting an attack down the inside at once, trying to get past Sean Winder in the Ferrari. As we pick up Andy Schultz, who is holding on to 5th position. Schultz, another driver who had a fairly lengthy success penalty at his pit stop. He was stationary for an extra 40 seconds, which is why he's dropped to the tail of the top 5 in the GTO group as that big field of cars comes out of the final chicane. The checkered flag is out, and there is Aaron Scott, but now count to 5, and do we see Phil Glue in the Aston Martin before the 5 seconds elapses? It was very, very close indeed. We'll wait to see the final classification as to whether Phil Glue was able to beat him. Yes, he was. There was just half a second in it in the end. So Aaron Scott, that 5-second penalty cost him the win. The winner in the GTB group, John Saunders for TCS Motorsport in the Ginetta G50. Wayne Mars and Charlie Hollings share victory in the GTC group. And our GTA winners, Stephen Frizzell and Nathan Freak. But let's hear from our GTB winner, John Saunders.
Congratulations on your group win.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted. I'd just like to thank Patrick Scharfliger and TCS Motorsport for the car. It's running fantastic.
And I can see you've already started celebrating. You've got your champagne popped already.
Absolutely. There's only half a bottle left, but I'll keep some for the boys.
And how was the race for you?
It's great. The safety car helped because I managed to get the jump on Webb. So, and then from then on, it was just hell for leather, and managed to keep the lead all the way, I think. So I'm very pleased with that. This is the first pit stop race in a dry that we've actually won. We've been leading a lot of times, but there's usually something happens. So I was waiting for something to happen, but this time it didn't. So really, really pleased.
Congratulations, guys. We're getting quite used to seeing you up here on the podium.
Yeah, it was a good race. A nice win, and extended our championship lead in our class and overall. So yeah, good day.
And did you enjoy it, Wayne?
Really pleased with that result. Brilliant result.
You look like you're having quite a strong race all the way around.
Yeah, we know we're kind of always quick enough as a pair, so that's never really a problem. But we got the longer pit stop, so we had 65 seconds sat in the pit, so we had a bit of chasing down to do at the end, so made it a bit more exciting for us. But yeah, good pace.
It kept it exciting for us as well. And what about that safety car? Did that affect your race at all?
Well, we just pulled out a nice lead, didn't we?
Yeah.
Well, not a lead, but a gap between the other cars, and then they all bunched back up. But it didn't really make no difference to us, so it was okay.
You're here anyway, so
Yeah,
it's fine.
yeah.
Well, congratulations. Thank you. We kept that one exciting for us, guys.
That was incredible, absolutely amazing. The team did a great job. Andy did a great job in the first stint, and then I managed to pull it off on the last lap to get the win. So yeah, fantastic.
And how did you find the race for you?
Yeah, it was a bit hectic at the start. There's a few things happening, and I've not done many starts. So yeah, but once we got going, I was okay, and safety car came out, managed with that all right as well. So had a few things to deal with, but yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed my stint. It was good fun.
It was great fun to watch. It was really exciting. It certainly looked as if the race might go a different way several times through.
Well, I actually thought for the slowdown lap, I actually thought we'd finished second because I got told that we'd lost it by half a second. And then obviously the timing screen's updated, and Mike, my engineer, told me that we'd actually won the race, and I was just ecstatic because I just couldn't believe that we actually got the win after all those sort of battles throughout the race, managing to stay on the track, especially with the back markers in the other classes. I was put on the grass twice, and I thought it was game over, but I managed to pull it back and get it on the last lap by passing someone in the last corner of the last lap. So yeah, fantastic.
Well, a really exciting race here at Donington Park and some new faces up on the podium. Join us after the break for the first of the 2 sprint races. Many of the drivers racing here at the GT Cup are championship veterans who return year on year. But there's also space in the championship for newcomers and even novice drivers, like the 2 brought here today by McLaren as part of their Garage 59 programme. We're going to have a chat and see exactly what it is they're doing. Okay, Tim, so behind me we've got your 2 McLarens. It's a bit different how they're here. Can you explain to me how the drivers have got here today?
They've both been part of our driver program at Garage 59. It's a program that we've set up at McLaren GT to sort of help develop amateur drivers, to get them, train them up in our race cars, and then bring them racing as well.
And how do you get them prepared to go out on a track? Because obviously it's so different to driving a road car. Do you have any pros giving them tips, or is it you yourself telling them sort of where to brake and that kind of thing?
Yeah, well, I'm the senior driver for the program, so I suppose I sort of oversee the driver training side of it. We have some really top professionals that we bring in to sort of be their coaches, to really sort of walk them through, to teach them. We really do just try to get that information across, and hopefully they have fun as well, and they really enjoy what they're doing so far, so it seems to be working out pretty good.
And you're both quite new to racing. Is this your first experience of GT racing?
This is my first experience of any racing today, or yesterday, so first experience of a race weekend from the inside. Been to lots of races as a spectator, but never on the inside, so first weekend, a lot to take in, but the team have been great. They guide you through it all and make it a lot easier than I'm sure it would be without them. So.
And do you have plans to continue racing, or is this a sort of one-off thing for you?
I'd love to. I mean, it's just we've both been well guided by the guys at McLaren for 2 to 3 years now. So we'll have conversations with them about what they think might be next. Today isn't even over yet, so who knows what today brings. But I'd like to, and we'll just see what happens next year.
Time now for the first sprint race of the weekend here at Donington. The McLaren's back on pole with Ferrari and Audi just close behind.
Indeed, Olivia, a familiar look to the sharp end of the grid for our second GT Cup race, with Mike Benham and Darren Nelson side by side in the McLaren and the Ferrari, although of course at the start of the first race we saw Richard Chamberlain come bursting through to take the lead. We'll see if he's able to make as good a getaway again. For this second race around the Donington Grand Prix circuit, we have the amateur drivers at the wheels of their car, and it is a 25-minute race. And as usual, we have a rolling start. So once more, Mike Benham and Darren Nelson lead the field around the hairpin and get ready for a second dose of GT Cup racing at Donington. The race is go, and is Mike Benham able to make a better start and lead the field down to turn one? Unlike last time, it's looking better for the McLaren driver. Down on the inside, the Audi pilot trying to make a way through. That's Phil Bergen trying to get the United Autosports car up. And once again, Richard Chamberlain looking very feisty in that Porsche. He's already up to 4th place. He's exploring the outside line around Phil Bergen, but not able to make the pass stick so far. So still up at the sharp end of the field. We've got Benham leading from Nelson, and this huge field of GT Cup cars accelerating out of the Old Hall hairpin. It's Benham from Nelson as they get on the brakes for McLaren's, but getting all crossed up and spinning off backwards into the gravel trap. The Audi driver Phil Bergen has slipped up on the first lap. He's going to have a lot of work to do once he's pulled his car out of the gravel trap there, as the rest of the 31 strong field makes their way past, but we continue pressing on up at the front. That's promoted Richard Chamberlain up into 3rd position behind our race leaders Benham and Nelson. So Nelson pressing on against the McLaren, and the Marshals doing the very best they can with Phil Bergen's car. I'm sure they'll be able to get him out and get him on his way again shortly, but very defensive down into the Melbourne hairpin at the end of lap 1 for Benham in the McLaren, really feeling the heat from Nelson, and Nelson trying to draw side by side with him as they come towards the hairpin at the end of the lap for the first time. Nelson favouring the inside line. Is he going to be late enough on the brakes? We've got a problem back at the hairpin. That is Abby Eaton, who's gyrated in the BMW facing the wrong way around, and Nelson has got a move made on Benham for the lead. So it's Nelson who leads at the end of the first lap, but Benham is exploring the outside line as they head towards Redgate for the first time, trying to get the switch back as they head down towards the Craner curves. And it's a very nice move from Benham, and a bit of a problem further back for the number 13 Ferrari of Dillon, who gyrates at the exit of Redgate corner, but Benham has got his lead back. That was a significant move at the exit of Redgate corner, very important for Benham to immediately hit back after Nelson made that excellent pass down the hairpin, but it looks like he's not going to be able to shake off the attention of the Ferrari driver anytime soon. Later on, stuck in traffic, that's going to give Nelson a bit of an opportunity. He's tucked up close behind Benham as they come towards the hairpin at the end of the lap. Picking up Richard Chamberlain, who's still pressing on in third position, but sure enough, Nelson has managed to make a move stick at the hairpin, so move the Ferrari driver back up into the lead of the race now. Last time we saw Benham get an excellent exit from Redgate corner and was able to retake the position, but this time Nelson is able to take the racing line, and it looks like he is going to be able to hold on to that place ahead of his rival, as Richard Chamberlain in the Porsche finds his way blocked ahead as he tries to motor on down into the Craner curves. So Darren Nelson has taken over the lead of the GT Cup race, and Mike Benham slips down, having started from pole position in the McLaren, into second place. Darren Nelson has stretched his advantage, having had a little bit of clear air in the Ferrari, having the benefit of lapping as fast as he possibly can around this Donington Park circuit. We pick up a few of the drivers battling in the other groups. Rob Gaffney leading this queue in number 46. He is currently second in the GTA group, and you get a chance to see how much of a lead Nelson has got over Benham, and then that is Chamberlain a little bit further back in third position. David Wally currently leading in the GTC category, and side by side in the black car there we've got James Greenway. He's the leader in the GTB category, but he can't afford to waste much time in traffic because number 62, not too far behind him, that's John Saunders, keeping him very honest in the battle for GTB honours. Race leader Darren Nelson down the inside of Martin Webb, putting the BMW another lap behind, and you get a chance again to see Darren Nelson continuing to lead Mike Benham in the McLaren with a healthy margin there. But we pick up our leader in the GTA group. This is Tom Hibbert, and while he leads the GTA group, he's got a battle for position, although of course not group position, going on with Mark Smith, who is racing in one of the other categories, but still pressing on John Saunders in the Ginetta, moving down the inside at the Melbourne hairpin and continuing to press on as he holds on to second place in the GTB category. Andy Horton in the Aston Martin rounds Redgate. He's got a bit of track all to himself there, but the same can't be said of this pair because their battle is continuing to go on. Tom Hibbert still trying to find a way past. He drops a little bit back from his rival as they head into the braking zone for the chicane, and then accelerate out on the short blast down towards the Melbourne hairpin. You really do have to get tucked up very close to your rivals to be able to try and make a pass here. So for the time being at least, Mark Smith has got a good hold on that position in his Porsche, and a nice little slide as they come out of the hairpin there for Tom Hibbert. He presses on towards the other hairpin, which brings them all the way back round onto the Wheatcroft Straight, of course named after Tom Wheatcroft, who did such a fantastic job to renovate this Donington Park circuit and bring Formula 1 motor racing to it. All of 22 years ago it is since we had a Formula 1 World Championship Grand Prix at this track. But the cars press on for another lap, and we return our focus to our race leaders. Darren Nelson looking really secure and comfortable up at the sharp end of the field, and not looking quite so secure heading off track at the final hairpin. That is Paul Bailey in his Aston Martin, and with his headlights flashing on and off, I wonder if he's having a little bit of trouble getting that car restarted again, but he fires up the Vantage's engine and rejoins the track. Just coming out of the final corner there, but still not going too quickly, so I wonder if there's some other problem with the car there, and he may have to move that out of the range of traffic. And the cars coming out the final hairpin doing a very good job to spot the slow moving Aston Martin and get well out of the way. Fortunately, they've got ample opportunity to see him because they're accelerating from quite a slow corner there, but it does look as though Paul Bailey is not going to be able to continue further in this race, and it's going to be a little bit tricky to recover the Aston Martin from there. I think at minimum they're going to need a safety car with him stuck opposite the pit lane. We'll see what the race organisers decide to do. And the red flag has come out. We've got 18 minutes completed in this race already. It was scheduled to go to 25, so I suspect we're going to see this race red flagged and then not restarted because it will take too much time to get that car recovered. And of course we have lots of other racing going on at Donington Park, and we don't want to disrupt the rest of the schedule. So we have the cars filing into the pit lane where they will take the checkered flag, and that will confirm a victory for Darren Nelson in his Ferrari 458 ahead of Mike Benham, who was going very strongly in the McLaren 650S early on in the race, but Nelson took advantage in traffic and made an excellent opportunistic pass, and that sealed the victory for him. There is Richard Chamberlain in the distinctive orange Porsche 935, who has come home in third place. And now we get the full classification. So Darren Nelson, your outright winner. The GTB class winner, James Greenway, in his Porsche. David Wally, in his new Porsche, claims victory in the GTC group. And Tom Hibbert brought his car home first in the GTA group. Back in the pits, Olivia's talking to our GTC winner, David Wally.
David, congratulations, a podium on your first weekend back at racing, not a bad result.
No, I was delighted with that, unexpected, and with the second yesterday I was really delighted with that, so to come away with the first in class today, brilliant.
What was the point at which you thought that you were really going to take him?
I could see that I was catching him. I better not say too much in case he hears what I'm saying, but I know where his weak points are now, so I was watching him and I was catching him, so I know where in the track where I can sort of gain time on him, and I was then on his back, and then I sort of found an opening. But it happened a couple of times. He took me, then I took him, so yeah, it was quite a battle really.
A great battle for first place between McLaren and Ferrari, and really amazing to see David Wally returning back onto the podium with us here at GT Cup. Join us after the break for the second sprint race. Time now for the second and final race of the weekend here at Donington Park. Nelson's on pole, so it looks like it'll be another exciting battle between Ferrari and McLaren.
Thank you, Olivia. Yes, indeed. Darren Nelson and Mike Benham well poised to continue their battle from the start of the previous race. Paul Bailey, John Dillon and Richard Chamberlain, who's been such a fast starter this weekend, all lining up behind them. Once again, for the last race of the weekend, we have got a packed 30-car grid ready to take that rolling start down to Redgate Corner as we get this 25-minute race underway. So the cars are out of the final corner on their formation lap. We're ready for the rolling start. They're heading towards the line and the lights are green, and it's Darren Nelson with a very good start in the Ferrari on the left-hand side of your picture. Mike Benham on the McLaren on the right-hand side, taking the slightly wide line as they turn into Redgate Corner to ensure he keeps his advantage ahead of John Dillon. He makes ample use of the curve at the exit of the corner, and they are all through the first turn safely. As we get this race underway, Darren Nelson leads a snarling pack of GT cars as they wind their way through the Craner curves, pick out a braking point for that oh-so-tricky downhill Old Hall hairpin. Sprint on to the first of many laps around this Donington Park GP circuit. Mike Benham doing his best to give chase. Behind him he's got John Dillon in another Ferrari, so we've got a McLaren in a Ferrari sandwich up at the sharp end of the field. Just look at this fantastic gaggle of cars streaming through, battles all the way through the field in this race. It's definitely going to be an exciting end to the weekend's racing for the GT Cup drivers at Donington Park. A little bit further back I see David Wally pulling out of the slipstream, trying to make a pass around the outside of the Lotus driver, and diving down the inside is the Audi of Phil Bergen at the chicane. So three drivers jockeying for position, and squeezed out it is Riley in the Lotus being given the cold shoulder as they come out of the chicane. So our leading quartet have already got a little bit of a gap over their pursuers as we get down to the Adelaide hairpin, and David Wally is also picking his way past the Lotus Evora as they come out of the chicane. So not a great first lap of the race for Kevin Riley in that Lotus, and he's got pursuing not too far behind him the number 9 Porsche of James Greenway, trying to also get on terms with him. So it's Darren Nelson who leads at the end of the first lap, and Nelson had that excellent run in the second race, and the pass at the final corner on the McLaren which got him up into the lead, but this time he holds the whip hand from the start, and it's down to this man Mike Benham to see if he can get on terms with our race leader. But it looks to me as though he's having to worry a little bit more about the other Ferrari of John Dillon that's filling his mirrors at the moment as they begin the climb up towards McLaren's, and Benham's gone very wide, and that is no good at all. The McLaren driver pirouetting on the grass and comes to a stop, I think, before he reaches the track. Yeah, the car just able to slow down in time, but that has absolutely skewered his hopes in this race. He was running in a solid second place, That momentary lapse in concentration has cost him very, very dear. At one of many parts on this circuit where you just can't afford to get too far offline, he paid a very high price indeed. So that removes the pressure from our race leader Darren Nelson, who's got John Dillon in another Ferrari 458 close behind him. As we pick up some of the action in the middle of this packed field, we're looking at John Saunders up near the front of the GTB field, and behind him he's got Adam Wilcox in the Audi R8, which is actually part of the GTO group, trying to find his way faster. Once again, the Melbourne hairpin is a great overtaking opportunity on this track. You see lots of drivers heading into that corner side by side, trying to gain an advantage on their rivals. Adam Wilcox trying to get a slingshot off the last corner, and ducking and weaving their way through traffic now, the race leaders. There's Darren Nelson, has already worked his way through this clutch of cars, and not too far behind him, John Dillon also trying to make some progress and try to catch that car up in front of him. But as is always the problem when you're trying to catch somebody in the same maker's car as you, you know that they've got exactly the same strengths and weaknesses that you have, and that's what's going to make life a little bit difficult for John Dillon. But Darren Nelson now is on the tail of Rob Gaffney, who is our leader in the GTA group. Obviously the GTA cars not quite as high performance as the GTOs, and Gaffney, the leader in that group, goes a lap down. And not too far behind now is John Dillon. Dillon's really starting to close that gap to our race leader, but side by side into the first corner we've got Nigel Armstrong trying to make his way past. Oh, and a bit of contact there, and Armstrong off into the gravel, and that is going to be a difficult recovery for him, I suspect, at the exit of Redgate Corner. Fortunate end to his race, but we return to John Saunders, who's near the sharp end of the GTB group, rounding the last corner, past the pits once more for another lap of this Donington Park GP circuit, the full-length version of Donington Park track, not used quite as often as the shorter version, which we often see the touring cars and other championships racing on, but the GP circuit, which the MotoGP bikes visit. It's a very popular addition to the calendar. It looks like someone's got a little bit of rubbing bodywork down there. It looks like some tyre smoke as they came down to the Old Hull hairpin. But here is John Dillon, who's still holding on to that second position. You see the nose of the Ferrari dipping as he brakes hard for the chicane. Continues in pursuit of our race leader now. We've got a battle for overall honours in the GTC group at the moment. That is David Wally in the number 2 Porsche, and not too far behind him is Wayne Mars in that distinctive white and lime green coloured Ferrari. Mars definitely giving Wally a thing or two to think about here. Still up at the sharp end, it's a pair of Ferrari 458s leading the way, and Darren Nelson setting some absolutely scorching lap times at the head of this field, eking out that lead over John Dillon again, and the pair of them leaving the field further and further behind. So we return to this very tasty little battle we've got developing in the GTC group, and Wayne Mars definitely looking capable of giving David Wally a bit of something to think about in the closing stages of this race. Is Mars going to be able to make a bit of a launch on the inside? I think Wally was looking a little bit protective of his line as they went into the Adelaide hairpin that time by, and Mars preferring to take a slightly tighter line as they come out of the penultimate corner on the track. It's just a short squirt on the accelerator up to the last corner, and this could be a bit of a problem for Wally because he has got a car which he's putting a lap down now, and it forces him to compromise his line out of the last corner a little bit. Mars can take advantage of that. He tucks up into Wally's slipstream, and he is very much thinking about launching an attack on the Porsche driver as they round Redgate Corner. Are there going to be any opportunities for the Ferrari driver as they drop down into the super fast Craner curve sweeps? You see them at the top of the screen working their way down that left-hander where the car's steering gets oh so light. It's very, very difficult to get it back across to the left-hand side of the track, nail the braking point for Old Hull hairpin. But Wally looking all right there for now. Further ahead, we've got a scrap between the Lotus Evora and the recovering McLaren 650S of Mike Benham, who had that problem on the first lap, and the pair potentially exchanging positions at the chicane. But Kevin Riley in the Lotus hanging on to his position for now, and I think Benham actually dropped a couple of wheels off the track, and that's what's cost him a little bit of ground to his rival a little bit further back. So Benham will have to regroup once more, but it has definitely been a race of recovery for him. You see the fat brake discs glowing bright red on the McLaren as he brakes for the final hairpin. Problem there, it seems, for Sean Winder. And he has come to a stop at the pit lane exit, so we'll have to see what race control are going to do about this. But it's not a problem for Darren Nelson, who has comfortably led this race from lap 1, lapped very, very quickly. The marshals are quickly to the aid of the car. The drivers obviously got out of there, so no problems from a safety point of view there, just extinguishing the flames and get the whole situation under control. Great work as ever by the Donington marshals. So back up at the sharp end, Darren Nelson continuing on his serene way. The brief bit of pressure that he felt from John Dillon when they were working their way through traffic has now subsided, and he's just got another Ferrari to lap as he comes around the Adelaide hairpin. But it's looking like being another excellent win for Darren Nelson at Donington Park this weekend. It's been a very good circuit for him, and he will have thoroughly enjoyed his weekend in the East Midlands. So Nelson accelerates out of the final corner and the checkered flag waves. It's victory for Darren Nelson, and it's a Ferrari 1-2 with John Dillon in second position. And Richard Chamberlain in his Porsche 935 is going to come in and take the checkered flag over 21 seconds adrift of our runaway race leaders. So here's our classification for the final race at Donington Park. Darren Nelson, your outright winner. James Greenway claims honours in the GTB group in his Porsche. David Wally, another victory for him in the GTC category in his Porsche, pushed hard by Wayne Mars. And Rob Gaffney in his Amiga Motorsport Ginetta G50 was the winner in the GTA group.
Congratulations on another group win. We're beginning to get very used to you up here on the podium.
Yeah, obviously that's what we kind of planned to do. You know, when we get into the season, we wanted to kind of be at the front of it, and you know, we got to keep winning races to kind of win the championship, which is what we're doing. Obviously, we extended our lead, so yeah, just another kind of race to go where we score some points, and yeah, the GTA title's ours.
Really strong performance, James. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. It was a tough day. After yesterday, we had a bit of contact in the first race, which put us at the back. We knew that we had to come out today and win both races, which is what we've done. So yeah, to get the 2 wins, 2 fastest laps, and obviously gain the maximum points, it puts us in a little bit of in a better position for Oulton Park, obviously leading the championship. We've got a nice little gap now built up, so yeah, we're happy with our work today.
David, 2 out of 2 today. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a lot harder race. 1, because I'm tired from this morning from the weekend, but 2, the guy in second place, McLaren, kept me honest the entire race. Had a great start. Got 4 or 5 cars gap between me and him, and I was letting them past. Obviously, I'm not in their championship, and I saw him in my mirror. So for about 15 minutes, I had him right in my backside. Tough race.
Darren, congratulations once again.
Yes, 2 wins in one day. Can't be bad. Yeah, I'm sick of this podium now.
Well, we're not sick of seeing you.
No. It was a really, really good race. So we made sure we got off to a great start. Strategy was to get on pole and keep out the way of everybody and keep racing, really.
It must have been quite a relief when you saw the McLaren no longer right behind you.
Yeah, I sort of lost him quite early on, didn't I? And then somehow a Ferrari ended up on my rear, so I just kept him at a certain pace. And then the guys kind of radioed through to me where I needed to be, and then sped up a little bit and got away from him again, and then slowed it down nice and safe. Yeah, so we had a good strategy and it worked. Yeah, it was brilliant.
So with just 1 meeting left this season, Wayne Mars and Charlie Hollings hold a 29-point lead in the championship.
Well, that's it for another exciting weekend of GT Cup racing. Join us next time at Oulton Park, and don't forget to stay updated by following us on Twitter, liking our Facebook page and checking out the website.